Hello and welcome back to the second video of our four-part video series on email marketing for B2B e-commerce brands. Again, thanks Sparklayer for putting this together. We are talking about how to use email marketing for four key parts of an or an e-commerce business, specifically B2B e-commerce. That's acquisition, onboarding, retention, and adoption. In video number one, we talked about the acquisition part. In other words, how do you acquire new customers? And in the second video, we're going to be talking about onboarding today. Onboarding your new customers into your ecosystem, basically. So quick recap of part number one, which is acquisition. How do we get new customers? If you missed this video, if you skipped over this video, here's a quick recap. I would highly encourage you to go watch it. Because there's 30 minutes of a really good discussion on how to acquire new customers. But the basic gist is that most B2B e-commerce brands are leaving a lot of customers on the table because they do not have a predictable email marketing system in place to build trust and stay top of mind with new people who land on their website, right? So most websites are just geared for conversion, which assumes that more people are ready to purchase when they visit the website, and that's just not the case, right? Most conversion rates for a website are about 2%, and so that means that 98 other people out of 100 are somewhere in the awareness or consideration stage, yet they're being met with no content or no touch points that are meeting them where they're at with what they need in order to take the next step. So they just leave, right? So that is really kind of the gist of it. We believe that most brands are leaving a ton of traffic on the table, a ton of money on the table, and the current ad spend is just not working as hard as it could because of they don't have a follow-up email marketing system in place. Anyway, if you want the full recap on that, you can go watch video one. But this is kind of the gist of the acquisition piece. Now that we've gotten these new leads and potentially new customers to purchase and take the next step, we want to make sure that they have a great onboarding experience. So onboarding that converts, how B2B e-commerce brands can nail their first impression. We're calling this a practical guide to turning first-time buyers into long-term customers and even raving fans, right? Loyal fans, loyal advocates of your brand. In case you haven't watched the first video, why should you trust us? I'm Jeff. I've been in email marketing for 5 years. Kyler, my partner, who you will meet in the next two videos, is a former CRO for a B2B e-commerce distributor. So we've spent a lot of time in marketing together, and we've driven a lot of value for many different brands over the last 5 to 10 years. So we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about your first impression, right? You only get one first impression. As a matter of fact, I think it was Forbes that said that you have 7 seconds to make a good first impression. Or better, how do they say it? They said that a first impression was established in the first 7 seconds. Now, I don't want to get hung up on 7 seconds because I don't really know what that means, but at the same time, we know that first impressions happen very quickly. When you meet somebody new, you form a first impression with them very quickly. The same thing happens in business, right? And in online business, your first impression is everything. It sets the tone, and it can form or fracture trust right out of the gate. It can make or break whether you have a long-term relationship with this person or not. Right, just like real life, these are people on the other end. These are not subscribers and data points and leads. Right, these are people. Right, we have to think of them as people. So most brands don't lose customers because their products stink. They lose them because they have a poor onboarding experience. And onboarding is more than just saying thanks for your order. Come by again sometime, right? That's not what good onboarding is. We define it as delivering a great first experience for new customers before, during, and after the transaction, so that they have a great experience all around, and you are putting your best foot forward throughout the entire journey. So in email marketing, that means we divide it up into 3 phases, just like I said above: the pre-purchase, the mid-purchase, so during the purchase while it's happening, and post-purchase. So after somebody becomes a customer, then what are we doing with them, right? So in the pre-purchase, we focus on the welcome flow, which, again, if you want kind of a high-level overview of what that looks like, you can watch the acquisition video, which is part 1. Mid-purchase or during purchase, a lot of that is online navigation, smooth ordering, easy payment, that sort of stuff, kind of eliminating friction there and making it an enjoyable experience. And then post-purchase is really just kind of simply staying in touch with them and staying top of mind, and kind of touching base with them, and even following up with when it's time to order again, right? So there's a lot of different things that we can do here to ensure that you put your best foot forward. So before we're going to break down each one of those 3 phases, but the thing that I want to just really, really impress on you before we dig into the details is kind of an overarching theme to think like your customer, think like a customer, right? And put yourself in the shoes of a customer. And what would you like as a customer? As a new customer of a brand that you've never purchased from before, how would you like to be treated? What would be above and beyond to you, right? What would seem like a good impression to you? What would a poor first impression feel like to you, right? You can even maybe, just stop and think about, some of the good first impressions you've had and what those companies did. And then also poor first impressions you've had. Like, you may have to stop and think about that a little bit, but I'm sure you can come up with one, a bad experience that you've had with somebody as a new customer, right? So here's some guidelines on what a good first impression and a poor first impression feel like. For the sake of time, we're not going to get into those, mostly because I'll get a little stuck and start rambling. But this is what a good impression and a poor impression should feel like. Now, let's dive more specifically into the 3 different phases, starting with the pre-purchase phase, before somebody has become a customer. And that is what we call the welcome flow comes in. And again, in case you missed the acquisition video, this is your first step towards trust. We must earn the trust of people who are in the awareness and consideration stages, right? People who don't yet trust us, we must earn that trust. It's the currency of business. No transaction has happened in the history of online transactions without trust being present. So the welcome flow, more specifically, is a 5-email series, an automated 5-email series designed to deliver on your promise, establish your value, show them how to buy, overcome hesitations, and drive the first order. Now, let's break these emails down for you. The first email is the welcome email. It is the first email that a new subscriber or lead gets from you, and we want to start strong, right? This is we consider the whole welcome flow to be your first impression, but this is like the first impression of your first impression, okay? So we want to start really strong and put our best foot forward. We also want to present the offer. We want to make sure that the offer that they, opted in for or signed up for, that they get it right here, front and center, because that's what they came for. We want to keep it short and warm. And by warm, I mean just very natural, very inviting. No corporate speak, no stuffy jargon. It's best if these emails come from a real person, right? And that they're warm and natural and inviting. You can still maintain a level of professionalism while also making your emails feel very warm and natural, right? Also in this email, we want to assure them that they've come to the right place. So, the thing that they are hoping to achieve, or the problem they're hoping to solve, or the person that they ultimately want to become, we want to assure them that we are going to help them get there, that our products are exactly what they need to get that job done. We want to set expectations of what's next and how often. So, in other words, you're going to be sending 5 emails out over the next week or so. So we need to say that. We need to give them the expectation that you're going to be getting a few more emails from us over the next, over the coming week to, make sure that you get the most out of whatever it is that you got from us, or the offer or whatever. So we want to set those expectations. People are, I find that they are less inclined to be annoyed and unsubscribe when they know what's coming. It's when the expectations are not set that people become annoyed, right? I once had a 26 email welcome flow, 26 emails, and it was an email a day for 26 days, and very, very, very few people unsubscribed from it. And I attribute a lot of that to, one, it was content that they actually wanted to receive, but two, I told them it was coming. Right up front, I said it's coming. Basically, so there's no excuses if you get annoyed, right? You know what you're signing up for here. So we just want to do that here, and let them know what's coming. We want to share B2B specific site features here as well. All right, email number 2, the uniqueness email. So basically the gist of this is why you and not them, right? So your value proposition, your, unique selling point, whatever you want to call it. This is where you will really kind of highlight that here. So the thing you don't want to do is say the things that everybody else in your industry is saying, the things that everybody else, is kind of using as their value proposition. Quality, quick, trusted, like, of course you are. What actually makes you different? And that's really kind of what you want to focus on here. So you also want to remind them of the offer. Bring it back to, you signed up to get this free shipping or whatever the offer was. So, here's that offer, just reminding you to go, take us up on that. It's a really good deal. So just kind of bring it back to the offer. But going back to the difference in the uniqueness here, I don't think it's a bad idea at all for you to take a stance in these emails. If your brand has a stance on something that, this is the way that most of our industry does it, and we believe that it shouldn't be done that way, right? Or, most brands will take, most companies, if you order parts from, it might be a week before the part is in your hands, and we believe that it should be in your hands the next day, right? So that's what I mean by taking a stance. You're not necessarily throwing all your other companies out the under the bus, or trashing your competitors. You're just simply positioning yourself slightly differently and taking a stance that matters to the customer. So it's just a slight positioning, if that makes sense. It's positioning you differently in the market from everybody else. Ultimately connecting it back to what your ICP, your ideal customer, values the most. The third email is the top categories email. So in other words, help them find what they need fast, right? Share the top categories or the most popular products, and make it really, really easy for them to browse and find what they need. You can also reinforce your differentiators here, what makes you unique. I believe that as early and often as you can do that, do it, right? And again, as with all the emails in the sequence, we want to remind them of the offer. We want to put that offer right back in front of them and keep it top of mind. The objections email is the fourth email we have here. And this is exactly what it sounds like. You are overcoming objections. This is, just a classic kind of sales, I don't want to say tactic here because I don't really like that word, but it is a classic sales strategy to anticipate the objections that your customers will have. If you don't know what your objections are, talk to customer support or talk to the sales team. They can tell you what hesitations people have to purchasing before they do. The whole goal is to just remove that friction, because there's, and again, put yourself in the shoes of a customer and the times where you have been a customer, and think about the hesitations that you have, right? This is one of the things I do all the time. I'm constantly, when I'm getting ready to buy something, I'm thinking about my hesitations so that I can use that as training later, and just kind of training my brain to start thinking about what stops people from buying, what causes them to not buy in the moment. And remove that friction for them. So we want to address their number one hesitation here. Is it shipping? Is it support? Is it quality? Is it certification? Is it, whatever is the number one hesitation they have, we want to go ahead and address that head on here in the email. point them back to the offer, and hope that we, are building some confidence and trust here with them. And then the last email here is a last call email. This is the only time where we will introduce some sort of urgency, and it's not really even going to be done in let me put it this way. It's going to be done in a very tasteful way, right? And so we're just simply reminding them of the offer. We're not setting use this in the next 12 hours or it expires. I mean, you can definitely try to do that. It might increase your sales, but we're not really going to try to do that much. What we will advocate for is just saying this is the last reminder. This is the last time I'm going to remind you of it, right? The offer still stands if you want to use it, but we're not going to remind you of it anymore. So don't let it slip through the cracks, in other words. And that's a different way that you can use that kind of urgency and kind of make it a little bit more, push it a little bit more without seeming sleazy. You can also insert your best testimonials or proof points here. Reaffirm the outcome that you'll help them achieve. And again, you can link back to top categories to drive browsing. So basically, you're kind of incorporating some of the other elements that were introduced in the previous emails, and you're kind of weaving some of them back into this final email in the series. So, all right, that's it for the welcome flow, the 5 email welcome flow. Again, this is all automated. It doesn't have to be 5 emails. It could be more. It could be less. It doesn't have to be 5 days. It could be more than 5 days. It's really kind of up to you and how your buyers, how your audience or ideal clients want to receive this information, and how you want to communicate with them. I don't see anything wrong with communicating every day, but at least a few times a week for sure. So, all right, let's move on to the mid-purchase or during purchase experience here. And so with the mid-purchase or the during purchase, really a lot of it has to do with the on-site experience. We're going to talk a little bit about email marketing and how you can use email marketing for it. But really, the key part is the on-site experience, which Sparklayer helps you do tremendously, right? They help you deliver an extraordinary on-site experience for your business buyers. So the overall goals here are to deliver a successful, enjoyable browsing journey, right? And you do that with a customer experience built with B2B buyers in mind, intuitive, familiar interfaces, clear conversion-driving actions, accessible, helpful resources, and interactive overview content. So let's dig into this just a little bit. All right, the first element is a B2B benefits landing page. A great way to encourage your customers is to use your new B2B store. A great way to encourage your customers to use your new B2B store is to explain the benefits, right? You can do this with a description and demo of B2B features, an account overview, a B2B pricing model if that's applicable. Sparklayer makes this super easy with ready-made onboarding landing pages. You should already have access to this, and it's a fantastic way to explain the benefits right on the landing page. They make it really, really easy to do that. You can also, if somebody signs up for a new account, these are things that I would encourage you to do in email as well, to not necessarily assume that they've seen all this, right? So, for example, let's take the B2B pricing model. Somebody signs up for, a new account. I would probably want to share that B2B pricing model with them in an email because I think they're more likely to see it if we also send it in an email and just kind of draw some attention to it. We can't assume that they're gonna, see everything on their own without us kind of pointing it out for them. At least that's the way that I tend to look at this. The next thing is an account overview video. This is going to really improve the during purchase, mid-purchase experience. And the best way to think about this is just a short and sweet 60 to 90 second video of a real human being from your company providing a connection with your brand, showing customers how to make the most out of their B2B account. So we want to keep it brief and friendly. But basically just kind of giving them a lay of the land, kind of showing them how it works, the best, the best features, B2B features. And you can include this on the B2B landing page. You can also include this, again, you could do this in an email as well if somebody signs up for a new account. Most of these things that are present and are important for the web page, you can also do send via emails as well, automated emails that just kind of fire off whenever somebody signs up for a new account. So next point is powerful on-site search. Over 50% of customers start their buying process via on-site search, and customers who search convert 14 times better than those who don't. So I think it's pretty clear that the search feature on your site needs to be very powerful and very clear. If you think about Amazon, and you go to Amazon, at least I do, I go straight to the search part. That's where 100% of my conversions start from, except maybe from, if I just go to reorder a previous one, which then I just go to my account and I can find it there. So any new products I'm buying, 100% of the time I'm going straight to the search bar. So there's that. That's how important the search bar is on your e-commerce site. Make sure your store has a great on-site search engine that helps customers find the products they need fast. That's the other key word. Hopefully, things are organized really well so that, the products that they need and the categories that they need can be found really, really quickly. B2B focused navigation is the fourth one. So remember that your B2B buyers, they're a little bit different, right? They don't need flashy marketing. They need to get information quickly and have the ability to order things really easily, right? Their job depends on it. So your navigation should reflect this. Your navigation for them should reflect this. Good, clean design, easy to see and use. That's, kind of across the board, no matter what, whether it's B2B or D2C, good design is really, really important. But really kind of the key part here is industry specific language and terms, right? So, quite often, if you sell B2B and D2C, there might be different terminology for the B2B buyers than for the direct to consumer buyers. Here's an example. Let's just say, you're a coffee shop distributor and you sell to other coffee shops. But you also maybe you sell direct to consumer sometimes, right? Well, if you sell, syrups, your direct customers may have different terminology for those syrups than your B2B, your coffee shop buyers, your manager at a coffee shop, right? So maybe the manager at the coffee shop calls them syrups, but the actual coffee shop customer or the home consumer might call them flavorings, right? And this is just an example, right? You always, for your B2B navigation, you want to use the term that your B2B buyers are going to use because it's going to help them find what they need easier and faster, right? So that clear industry-specific language, we think is really, really important here. And the last point here is that that the site is organized by a clear theme. So, the categories, the navigation is all organized by one of these themes. Goodness, by one of these themes, so that everything is kind of universal and fits. So you could do it by use case, or product type, or industry, or job type, whatever's really the most relevant. What's going to make it the most easy for your B2B buyer to find what they need, right? So if we go back to an example, you're a coffee shop distributor, you sell, syrups and powders and cups and, lids and straws and sleeves and all these kinds of things. That might be how you organize things by product type. So it could be, paper products, syrups, powders, and just kind of organized by product type. Or, you could organize it by use case, so how something is being used. You could do it by, who you serve. Like it could be coffee shops, grocery stores, whatever. It just needs to be, the products need to be organized in a way that makes sense and is clear and consistent all throughout the site, right? So last thing here, I'm kind of rambling, but Last thing is the last thing you want is for multiple different organizational types kind of like scattered throughout the website, because that just creates confusion, right? It just, if things aren't organized in one clear theme, it just can create some confusion because, there's just too many different things going on. So, moving on from the mid-purchase or during purchase, once somebody becomes a customer, the journey still doesn't stop there. Yet that is where most brands stop the journey, at the point of purchase. Great, cool. They gave us their money. Thanks. We'll see you later. And there's really not a lot of thought given to people who actually become customers. And that's where it's actually, like, I believe the most, money is being lost, most revenue is being lost, because it's easier and cheaper to convert somebody who has already trusted you than it is to convert a new cold customer from scratch, right? I hope that makes sense. It's easier and cheaper to convert somebody who's already given you their money to give you their money again than it is to convert somebody new, just cold off the internet. And the important thing is that you continue to build trust, you continue to deliver a great experience, and establish that rapport and become their go-to brand, okay? So that's why the post-purchase, the follow-up flow makes such a big difference. It does all those things and kind of puts you in a position to become that go-to brand for them. So the important thing, don't go silent after the sale. Use this 5 email series that's designed to deepen the relationship, increase retention, encourage a second order, provide an even more extraordinary experience, and build some social proof and trust. So let's dig into what this post-purchase flow might look like for you. The first email we want to hit with pretty quickly afterward is the cross promo email. We want to show them what's next or what else is available to them, right? So in other words, we want to capitalize on that momentum from their purchase and leverage it, right? And say, maybe, here are some complementary products or categories that, other people order with, this. If you think again about how you purchase on Amazon, if you buy things on Amazon, you'll see the tab that says, customers who bought this also needed that, right? And so you can do this directly on the site. You can do this via email as well. But the kind of the thought behind this is we want to make it feel like a helpful nudge and not some, pushy, slimy sales tactic, right? So that's kind of, another theme of this whole thing is that, you can sell, you can promote your products without coming across as icky, I guess. So we want to make this email feel like a helpful nudge and not necessarily a hard sell. The next email after that is just simply a thank you email, right? Be a human, say thank you, right? And no pitch, no links, just show them that you appreciate them, right? It's best if this is from the CEO or founder, and it's truly just a candid 1 minute, 2 minute video of the CEO, saying thanks, we really appreciate it, we couldn't do it without you. We're here to make things better for you. So always feel free to give us some feedback. Whatever it is you want to say in this 1 minute. Again, really, really bonus points if it's kind of candid, if, not necessarily off the cuff, because it's going to be automated and everybody's going to be getting it. But it doesn't have to be highly scripted and, from a perfectly polished studio, right? It can be, the founder just whipped out his iPhone or her iPhone and, recorded a quick video, said thank you, and, we kind of set that in automation. That actually works. You can do that. So again, no pitch, no links, no sales. We're just trying to build some goodwill here and, make them just let them know that we appreciate them, right? It positions you as more than just another vendor or merchant, right? You're actually somebody who cares about them and is interested in the long-term journey with them. So email number 3 in the post-purchase flow is the resource email, and this helps customers get the most out of their purchase with you, right? So you could point to a helpful resource or a guide. It could be product specific or general advice. The idea is that they have purchased something from you, and we want to make sure that they get the most out of it, right? So however it is that you can help them do that, that's what we want to do in this email, right? We want to show them that we're not just interested in their money, but we're actually interested in helping them get the job done, right? As a brand, we thrive on that. We thrive on making sure that, you actually do your job well. We're not just interested in your money. We want to make sure you do the job well. And so that's what this resources email is here for, is to help them get the most out of what they purchased from you. The review request email, this one, can typically be a little bit more delayed after the first few emails, because, we want to give them a chance to get the product in their hand and actually use it, so that they can then give us some feedback on it, right? Because feedback builds flywheels. We want to ask for a review, and in this email, we want to ask for a review, or, if you don't have an easy link for somebody to leave a review, you can ask them to reply with some quick feedback, and then you can turn it into a review yourself. The point is, we want to make it easy as we can for them to do this, right? Because for some reason or another, there's a lot of friction when it comes to providing feedback. It's really hard to get testimonials. I don't know if you've ever tried to get testimonials, but sometimes it's like pulling teeth, even if the experience is great, right? That's just human nature. I don't know what it is, but that's just human nature, right? So we want to, like everything, we want to remove the friction here and make it easy to get these reviews from our customers. Why? Because social proof fuels future conversions. And the next email is the check-in email. Are they winning yet? So we basically want to check in after a period of time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever it is that is optimal for your brand and your products, and just find out if they're winning. Find out what their experience is like. It's not necessarily a testimonial ask email, but you could also include that if they haven't already submitted a testimonial. But mainly the goal is just to check in and ask how it's going. Again, we are kind of, this is another kind of goodwill focused email, right? And relationship establishing email. We have other emails that are focused on selling, right? And not every single email has to hard sell or push a product, right? Got to read the room, got to know the temperature. And, if we've just spent money with somebody, we don't necessarily want, I don't necessarily want that brand, breathing down my neck every single email asking me, to buy something again, right? So reading the room, building goodwill, establishing trust, showing up, and, there's something to be said about showing up and not asking for the sale that builds goodwill and builds that trust, right? So, if we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the customer, we can also assume that, maybe they have questions or maybe they might need some support. So we want to make that easy for them as well. You can include, answer a couple of questions or include a link to call support. Basically, we want to just check in, show that we're still here, show that we care, show that we're going to keep showing up. We're not going to just leave them hanging, right? That we are with them on this journey. And that is really kind of the important point for you to establish in the brand with this email and really the whole post-purchase flow, in my opinion. So this is, the first impression framework is kind of what we have called this, from click to customer to loyal fan. And there are really 3 phases of that first impression. The pre-purchase flow, so before somebody becomes a customer. Come on. There we go. The mid-purchase, which is, again, during the purchase. So there's before the purchase happens, while the purchase is happening, so their experience with, with the website and the landing page, even some, potentially some emails mixed in there, if that during the purchase kind of drags on, if somebody doesn't purchase right away. But the mid-purchase experience is mostly on-site. The post-purchase, which is once they become a customer, the first impression does not stop. It keeps going, and actually more money is left on the table with a poor post-purchase experience than anything else. So those 3 phases, if you nail those 3 phases, you will deliver a very, very strong first impression that actually drives revenue, right? It's not fluff. It is actually a revenue driver. Think about it this way. Every single email you send after someone signs up or buys from you, that is an opportunity for you. to build trust, to reduce churn, to increase lifetime value, to turn those new customers into repeat buyers. The brands who get this right and who think about this are the ones who are going to win long term, right? Because they're not thinking from sale to sale. They're not thinking from, new customer to new customer to new customer. Let's dump more money into ads. Let's, increase traffic. They're, building better relationships. They're building more trust with their buyers. Therefore, they're increasing the likelihood of repeat buyers and long-term fans and even advocates of your brand, right? So the brands who get this first impression right, those are the ones who really are going to win long term. All right. So, we have a framework that we call the forward framework. It's, kind of how we sum up what we do for clients. We build predictable email marketing machines for B2B e-commerce brands. We specifically work with B2B e-commerce brands. We don't actually do any D2C work, D2C e-commerce work, just B2B. So what we've just covered is in parts 1 and part 2 are part of our conversion catalyst system. This is what we actually help set up for people as part of our what we call the conversion catalyst system. In the next part, when we start talking about retention and how to retain more customers, that is part of our sales signal system. It's our retention model. And then the 4th video in the series is actually about adoption, and that's the last part of our framework, which we call adoption anchor. So first part is done, 2 more to go, and that is all that we have for you here. I hope that you have walked away from this with a clear understanding of what how important a first impression is and how to deliver a really, really strong one, because it's going to make a really, really big difference for your brand. So that's it for onboarding, and we will see you in the next part, which is retention, and you will meet my partner, Kyler, to explain what that looks like.